Hi everyone, this is Moni saying it's hurricane season, and today we are going to talk about STEM activities related with the theme of hurricane. So, first of all, a quick primer on what are hurricanes. Well, hurricane is a massive swirling storm that forms over warm ocean waters, and basically, what happens is as the warm air rises up, it creates this low pressure area, and cooler air from the side then starts to rush into that space to fill that space, and the air starts to spin because of Earth's rotation. The Earth is rotating. So now what happens is as more and more of that warm air rises, the spinning gets stronger and it creates strong winds that blow in a circular motion around the eye. Now, the eye of the storm is the calm center of the storm. The rising warm air that's going up, it cools down high in the atmosphere and it produces rain. So that's why we see with hurricanes, it's a lot of wind and, of course, rain. Now, before we dig into the STEM activities, I also wanted to clarify something I see a lot of confusion about because depending on which part of the world you are, we see different terms for the same weather phenomena, which is the swirling storm, right? It's called hurricane, cyclone, typhoon. So, what is what, right? So, number one, they are the same weather phenomena. So, what I just described about the warm air rising up, cold air rushing in, and kind of creating the spin, all of that is the same when it comes to hurricane, cyclone, or typhoon. The difference is the name, basically, the naming of the storm depends upon where they form. So, a quick primer. So, I have a globe in front of me. Let's see if that how that works out today. So, let's see. You can see the globe. So, first of all, I'm going to move to let's look at the North American continent right there. Okay. So, okay, that's the North American continent that you can see right there. And basically, if a storm forms so remember, this is the Pacific Ocean, right? On this side is the Pacific Ocean. That's the North Pacific Ocean. That's the South Pacific Ocean. So if the storm forms in this North Pacific Ocean, it's called a hurricane. Now, if we go towards this side, towards Africa, first we get to the Atlantic Ocean. So, Atlantic Ocean, what happens is that that's the North Atlantic, and that's the South Atlantic right there. Um, so if the storm forms in the North Atlantic Ocean, that's also called hurricane. So basically, very simple way to think about this will be if you look at the North American continent right there, the storms that form around either the west coast of North America or the east coast, right? So whether it's the North Pacific or the North Atlantic, that's called hurricane. Okay, so that's the simple thing. Those are hurricanes. Now, anything that forms in the South Pacific Ocean in this area, well, in this area, towards here, going into more towards the Australian side. So this part is called it's called a cyclone in the South Pacific Ocean. Okay, so and if you go towards again going to the African peninsula, over here this is the South Atlantic Ocean. Here also it's called a cyclone. Okay, so cyclone on the South Atlantic Ocean. Crossing over from Africa, now we're getting into the Indian Ocean, and over here also the storms are called cyclone. So in this area, all across the Indian Ocean, they're called the cyclone. Okay, so now what's remaining is this part of it's the Pacific Ocean. It's the Northwest Pacific Ocean. So right by the coastline of China, and you have Indonesia. Sorry, I'm having a hard time with the camera here. Okay, so the Indonesia, Malaysia, all that area. So this, if a storm forms in this area, it's called a typhoon. Okay, in the Northwest Pacific Ocean, it's called a typhoon. So that's the rule. Again, the naming convention. So just to recap quickly, if the storm forms in the North Atlantic or the North Pacific, it's called a hurricane. In the South Pacific, it's called an Indian Ocean. So South Pacific and Indian Ocean, it's called a cyclone. And in the Northwest Pacific Ocean, it's called typhoon. All right, we got it through. Okay, so that's a little primer on the geography. Now let's move on to some STEM activities that you can do with kids. So you can actually, with this whole hurricane theme, you can combine a lot of different STEM topics, and I'll give you some ideas into how you can might be able to do that. So first of all, if you're working with robotics, you can have a rescue mission. Basically, you can provide a prompt to kids to design, build, and improve a robot that can go on a reconnaissance, right? Search and rescue survivors after a hurricane. And in this case, you want them to maybe understand some specifics about maybe SOS colors, um, and actions, what they can do, so that they can recognize, the robot can recognize the SOS signals. And you could also look at some kind of, visual monitoring, and based on the visuals, determining whether the person needs rescuing. So here, the concepts that you're kind of bringing together, of course, is coding. You're building a robot, almost like a rover. That rover is able to then go and you can include sensors in there where it's able to do some color detection, and you can connect that with the SOS colors. um, you have engineering designing involved. Of course, kids are going to put together the robot, and then motion. You're going to have the rover move. There's an element of communication and empathy as well, because you like the want the kids to think about, when do you know, looking at facial expressions, whether somebody needs help. So very interesting prompt that you can have kids work through. You can also um, similar, again, using robotics, you could actually also have a little bit of a different prompt, where you now give them a prompt that they're going to make a robot for debris cleanup. And this is where you want to design, build, and improve a robot, again, a rover, a moving vehicle that can detect debris in its way, and can also pick up the debris and place it in a container. This is super cool, because now you actually are involving motion. So not only is the robot going to detect that there's some obstacle on its way, but actually then put down some kind of a like a device or some contraption they'll build, which actually is able to pick up the stuff and put it into a container that it could be carrying in the back, or in that robot somewhere. So again, it involves a similar concept like what we talked about in the first one, where you have coding, engineering, designing, of course, motion forces and sensing, right? The sensors that you're going to utilize in there as well. Um, Now, if you don't have robots and you're trying to um, have kids do something without having actually robots to work with, you can create a prompt, and this could go into completely a mechanical engineering kind of a theme, where you give them a similar prompt that they're actually going to have, their mission is for debris cleanup. They're going to design, build, and improve a truck, so they can make like a truck design. For this, you can actually use, if you have simple Lego, you can use that. You can actually have them make um, um, some kind of a car contraption using even papers work. If you have nothing else, you want to keep it really simple, having just kids design out some kind of a uh, car or automobile which has almost like a chassis, and which can be built using just cardboard. And then you could use have them cut out wheels again from cardboard to make the wheels of that car. So again, you can keep it as simple as that, or if you have more products, materials, then you can utilize those, whether it's Lego or some other kind of tools, kits that you can have. But the goal here is that this truck is able to move, and then you're able to, it's able to hold the debris. So you want to make sure that that chassis actually has like a container on top of it, right? Almost like a pickup truck or something. So that it's able to go in and then pick up the materials from the field that they're cleaning up. So that's a complete mechanical focus. You can also take it into a civil engineering direction. So this is where you can have kids think about, making a structure, a tower that can withstand the hurricane force winds. And it's a super cool activity. You can actually have kids use, again, depending on what kind of materials you have. If you have no materials, you can simply use something as simple as just index cards and construction paper, things like that. So you can just use simple paper type of products and have kids design a tower. Or if you have more, more complex materials available, you have them use wooden pieces, even straws and other things that can be applied, of course, Legos. Now, you could you have them build out the tower, and then in order to mimic the hurricane force wind, you can actually use a table fan, and make sure that you we are very clear, because it's an engineering design challenge. You want to give them very clear criteria, right? So you can actually have a setup where the table fan is going to run on speed level 1, and their designed tower will be, uh, you know, 2 feet away, and the building should be able to sustain, right? Their construction should be able to sustain that wind. So give them very clear criteria so they know understand how to engineer, or what criteria towards are they engineering. You're not telling them how to engineer, because that's the thing, that's what the kids are going to think about. This is a great way, a great activity to do as teams. You can actually have kids collaborate. Actually, most of the activities I mentioned can be done as teams. You could have kids take different roles and actually collaborate together, discuss their plans. They can design something, have their plan ready. You could also incorporate some mathematics into this, where maybe you constrain the materials, or you actually require kids to buy materials from you. Again, it makes it a very nice experience in budgeting, right? If you give them a you have $100 and you give them like make believe money, and get to spend that money while they come and purchase materials from you. So again, great way to incorporate budgeting and mathematics in there as well. Another element, another dimension you can take this in would be environmental side, and this is where think about doing some kind of a role play, or simulation of connected ecosystems. You know how our ecosystems, you have food chains, and everything is interlinked. So if the lowest tier in the ecosystem, dies, or something is impacted in some way, of course, the other animals, living things in that food chain get impacted. So you will actually do a simulation based on, okay, there has been a hurricane, and hurricane has caused a lot of death and destruction for the coastal marine life, right? Something along those lines. And then you can actually have kids do a simulation. You can use yarn to see, okay, so if one part of the ecosystem, so these animals eat the fishes. So if the fishes die, these animals are now impacted, and so on and so forth. So you can build that um, into your activities as well. One other one, actually, not one, but that you could take it in multiple different directions, is like a public safety announcement around the hurricane itself, or hurricane preparedness, or what to do if the hurricane is happening, or what to do after the hurricane has passed. And you can actually have kids prepare some kind of a message like that. It's a great way to incorporate communications into your activities. And now here, this is where you can get even more creative, right? Now, this communication, this message that the kids are creating could be in form of an animation. So you can combine that with one of the coding platforms, and actually have kids like Scratch, where you actually have kids build out an animation, and that animation is going to talk about, give some facts about this hurricane preparedness, for example. You could have kids make a phone app, or even a website. Um, lots of different ways that you can take this, and have kids kind of come up with the messaging around how to be prepared when the hurricane, before a hurricane comes. So again, you have a lot of different ideas. I wanted to give you those ideas on what you can do with a theme like hurricane. Of course, if you already have the STEM for Kids lessons, many of these things that I've described, you'll find them in different curriculum. For example, the connected ecosystem I talked about is an environmental curriculum. The different coding, the game app or animation, they're all in different kinds of coding programs that we have. Robotics programs, of course, and we have the mechanical, the motion commotion, which will cover the aspects of actually making a truck or a chassis. And the building I talked to you about, that's one part of our civil engineering program. So anyhow, if you're part of our STEM for Kids network, of course, you have prepared lessons that you can apply and bring into your classroom as well. And for anyone who is interested in those lessons, we actually are running a scholarship right now covering 98% of the cost of curriculum and lessons. So feel free to go ahead and avail of that scholarship while it's still available. So that way you have all these lessons that you can start utilizing for the full year, and will cover 98% of that cost. Okay, so anyhow, again, the bottom line is that you have a lot of different activities that you can do with kids when it comes to a topic like hurricane. Hopefully, some of these pointers have helped you thinking about incorporating this weather phenomena into your classroom. So that's it for right now, and take care, everyone. Thank you so much.